Good morning everybody, and once again welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'll be teaching you how you guys can basically move data from MongoDB into Apache Hudi data lakes using PySpark. By the way, the entire project you can do it locally, and if you miss out on any steps, the complete guide is available on my LinkedIn. So now, without wasting any further time, let's get started with the lab exercise. So the first step is we need a MongoDB database, and for that you can basically use Docker, and let's spin up a MongoDB database. So again, in the project directory you're given this Docker compose file, and this should spin up the MongoDB database. And now we'll issue a command called docker compose up --build, and -d stands for detach. Now this will start the MongoDB running locally on my computer. So now that we have the MongoDB database, now let's learn how we can basically insert some sample dummy data so we can basically read that using PySpark and build transactional data lake. So step 2, head over to your Jupyter notebook or IntelliJ, VS Code, and install a library called PyMongo. So we are gonna run the cell. Oops, I think I need to, this was the HTML. So I wanna go to the IPython notebook, and then over here, we'll simply run the particular cell. And again, this will install the PyMongo library on my computer. The next step is we need to define import. So here I'm just defining pandas, PyMongo, JSON, OS, etc. So I'm gonna execute this cell. Now here I am creating a connection URL. Again, this step is basically we're just creating some sample data in the MongoDB so we can read it, right? So now over here, as you can see, it's running locally. So the username is root and the password is gonna be root password. So I'm going to define that particular connection string. I'm creating a client object, and then I did list database. So these are all the database that I have. Now over here, we're going to say client, the database name, collection name. In MongoDB, we don't say table, it's collection names, right? And insert one. So we're going to insert this particular record. As you can see, we got that ID, acknowledge to true. And now, just to be sure, we're going to read the data from MongoDB. And as you can see, client, database name, collection name dot find. We're basically finding everything, and we are printing that. So we have one document in the database called DB inside a collection called orders. Now we have some data that we can play with. So now let's learn how we can leverage PySpark to read the data and build transactional data lakes. Alright, so now let's take a look at the code for reading data from MongoDB, the PySpark code. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen. Alright, you guys can see my screen, right? Alright, over here we define the Spark session. We declare a variable for the Hudi version and the Spark version, right? Over here we have a function which says create Spark session. The job of the function is just to return the Spark session, okay? And over here you will see we are using these two packages, that is the Hudi and the Mongo Spark connector package, okay? So now let me collapse this one over here. Then we have a function called load Mongo data, takes a Spark session and takes a source config. Now source config is basically, I just wanted to make it easy. So all the, so from whichever collection you want to load, you will simply provide, list of objects over here. For example, host, database name, collection, username, password, and version, right? Now, if you take a look at the function, all it does, it creates the MongoDB URI, and basically, as you can see, it reads the data from that particular collection and creates a temp view. Temp view essentially allows you to run like an SQL queries, right? Hopefully that made sense. And then here we have a main function. We do everything over here, right? Here we have the JSON config. We tell which collection we want to read the data from, okay? We create the Spark session. We basically load the data from MongoDB. So this will create the temp view. And then here, as you can see, I'm running a simple Spark SQL. I want to really quickly show you. So here I'm selecting all the columns, right, from that particular temp view, right? So I will close this one. We do df.show, and then simple, right? We call the function upsert Hudi table. This will basically do upsert on a Hudi transactional data lake. Okay. So hopefully the code is clear, right? So now we're gonna run the particular code. Okay. So now let's run the code, right? So again, the code is pretty straightforward. Again, just gonna do a one last rundown. We create a Spark session over here, as you can see. And then we have the main function. Inside the main function, we define our config. This tells the template like, hey, you want to load data from this particular database, this particular collection. This is the username, password. Behind the scene, it will do all the connection string, load the data, create the temp view, right? So we call that, right? After that, we provide in a Spark SQL. So here you can basically clean up things if needed. So here, as you can see, I'm selecting all the columns from the temp view. Okay, so collapsing that, and then again just invoking the upsert function. Okay, all right, so let's see this in action. All right, so now Python 3 simple script.py, and I'll run this. So as you can see, now the script is running. I should see a Spark data frame, and as you can see, I was able to see a PySpark data frame, right? So meaning we were able to read data from MongoDB, right? And then as you can also see, we were able to write the data into Hudi. Now to verify that, I do have a script called readHudi.py. This basically reads the data from the Hudi table. So also, as you can see over here, we do have the Hudi table created in my directory, right? So now Python 3 read Hudi.py. So let's run this one. And again, I should see that records perfect, fantastic, flawless, right? So again, you can see I'm able to read the data from now Hudi as well. So you have successfully learned how to basically read data from MongoDB using PySpark and then write into Hudi tables. This allows you to offload analytical workload, right? So if you're doing a lot of heavy aggregations and everything on Mongo, you could basically bring those data into data lake and do those computation over there. You can query this data using Spark, Trino, Presto, Athena, Redshift Spectrum, etc., 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 right? So hopefully made sense. Now, this method that I showed you, what it does is basically reads the entire data from those tables, right? Now you'll say, hey, Saumil, how would I do then incrementally? Well, one way would be you can store some particular column like timestamp, and then when you read the data, you can say, give me data after this particular timestamp or value, right? That way you have to filter and then ingest that particular data. But for some reason, if you don't like this, right, there's also one more approach. You can leverage MongoDB streams. You can stream the data either into Kafka or your event bridge, right? And then basically you can ingest the data in a streaming fashion. I do have a complete deep dive video on that too, in case if you're interested. So again, both the options are open. You can do this way or you could do that way, whichever one works best for you. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. Keep smiling and I'll see you in the next video.